want to talk about books for just a second, and specifically about Allman Brothers books. And the one I want to highlight first is this book here that actually is more like a pamphlet. Came out in 1975. It's called The Allman Brothers Band, a biography in words and pictures, and was done by a guy named Tom Nolan. And this is a fascinating piece. It took me years to track this thing down because it's been out of print. I couldn't even tell you how long it's been out of print. My dude Craig, Facebook friend actually, is who sent me an extra copy of his. And mine's a little worse for the wear, but it really just is a tremendous source of information. And as a historian specifically, really helps me understand where some of these early stories of the band get codified and they emerge into legend, if you will, or grow into legend, or stay as part of the canon. The piece I want to mention, though, is this little note in the acknowledgments. Virtually all the material in this book is the result of a series of interviews conducted in Macon, New York City, Los Angeles, and San Francisco in June and July of 1975. What's interesting about that is, honestly, the band wasn't in great shape in 1975. They had released had released Win, Lose, or Draw, their follow-up to their massive hit, which hit #1, Brothers and Sisters, which followed up their massive hit, Eat a Peach, which had hit #4, which followed up their massive hit of At Fillmore East, which hit number 13. So they were on this great trajectory, and in the middle of this, Phil Walden somehow manages to have Sire Books come down and do this. Nolan come down and do these interviews, and it's a treasure trove of information from all the surviving members, all the way through Lamar and Chuck Leavell. Lots of information from Johnny Sandlin and Paul Hornsby, Bill Graham, in this book. It's less than 20,000 words, so it's going to be less than a fourth of what Play All Night is, my own book. But I wanted to share. This is why I pulled this out, because this is probably one of my favorite quotes in Play All Night that I used, and it comes directly from this piece from Tom Nolan. And it's about Twiggs Lyndon, when Twiggs first shows up to meet Duane. Backstory is Phil Walden had purchased Duane's contract out of Macon. Phil was out of Macon. Duane was at Fame Studios recording, and Walden sent Twiggs Lyndon, who had worked for him as a road manager over the years, to Muscle Shoals to hear Duane play. I'm just going to quote directly. It's on page 87 of Play All Night. They jammed for what was probably 10 or 15 minutes, but it seemed longer. I had been in the music business for 5 years, and I'd heard some fine music. I'd heard Jimi Hendrix playing with Little Richard, and Hendrix was almost good then as he was later. He had, this is my note, he had one thought as he listened to Duane, J-Mo, and Barry play together. If all the headaches and all the problems I had to go through as a road manager with all those bands for 5 years were the dues I had to pay to bring me into the studio for that moment in time, to hear this fellow Duane Allman play guitar for this one jam, it would have been worth it. And that if Phil Walden walked in right then as spokesman for fate and said, "Okay, Twiggs, back on the road for another 5 years with Percy Sledge and Little Richard, and after that, I'll let you come back and you can hear him play again," I would have gone right out that studio and done another 5 years. That was the thought that went right through my mind. Duane had a pretty powerful impression on everybody that he came across. Twiggs Lyndon among them. Twiggs was the Allman Brothers' original road manager, and also took some just phenomenal photographs of the band in the early era, which I've discussed ad nauseum at Long Live the ABB on the socials, on the Substack, and everything else. Twiggs has a pretty tragic history. Ended up murdering a club owner in Buffalo in a fit of rage. Was found not guilty by reason of insanity. The road with the Allman Brothers literally made him go nuts, and he ended up serving time in a mental institution. Came back out after Duane died, and joined back up with the band until they broke up in 1976, which was again shortly after this book came out. But this is a real triumphant tone. I'm sort of lost track of this a little bit, but this is a really triumphant tone. If you can find it, it's usually through Interlibrary Loan. The Allman Brothers Band, a biography in words and pictures by Tom Nolan. I've also probably need to get it up on the Internet Archive or something like that. Anyway, check it out. Long live the ABB.